Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Vimo Live. This is a live stream slash podcast that happens on YouTube and Twitch from Monday to Friday at 10 p.m. If you are here, you are in the live chats and you're talking, and I will get to your comments. If you're listening to the audio version of this at a later point of time, then you are probably doing it on Spotify, Google Podcast, Apple Podcast, Ghana.com, JioSavan, etc. One of these. I don't think you're using all the platforms at the same time to listen to my podcast because that would be amazing. But if you are listening to the audio version of this, please share the link with people you know so that more people can access the podcast and get exposed to the ideas that talked about here because these ideas need to be exposed to more people, or rather, more people need to be exposed to these ideas. Today's podcast was supposed to be about regular old stuff like, religion, atheism, culture, and all that. But something very interesting happened today. So I kind of on the fly changed the topic of today's show. And it has to do with Bihar. It has to do with what Nitish Kumar has done in breaking his ties with the BJP, his alliance partner in the NDA, and joined hands with RJD, Lalu Prasad Yadav's party, and now, most notably, his son Tejaswi's party. And this gives rise to certain interesting electoral dynamics in the near future and the far future, hopefully. But it also gives rise to certain predictable things that are going to happen. And people have already talked about these a bit. And at least one of these things has to do with, uh, you know, people are already joking about how the ED will really come to Bihar and start poking its nose into. Suddenly, it will start discovering people who are on the wrong side of the law. But also, the narrative of Gunda Raj in Bihar is going to be reborn. We last saw this narrative when the Bihar elections were happening, where Tejasvi Yadav seemingly miraculously lost, despite such a huge groundswell in favor of him. And nobody knows how it happened or if it happened. I myself have my suspicions. But what happened today seems to be a bit of a balance that has been restored to the Indian political scene. And even though I'm not an expert, I can tell you about at least the narrative aspect of it, which is, as I said, Gunda Raj, because there are deeper things at work here, and they have to do with mythology also. So we'll talk about all that. Let me just take a look at a few comments. Okay, so many people. Manmad says, is it like once a party hopper, always a party hopper? Not sure what Nitish is up to. Nitish Kumar is a canny politician, and like any canny politician, there are aspects to his way of working that may be described as opportunist. So it's not really about party hopping. He hasn't changed parties, right? He was never in the BJP. He was always in the JDU. He's still in the JDU. But he would have had to be a monumental fool if he had not seen what the BJP had done to the Shiv Sena in Maharashtra. And of course, JP Nadda did not help. JP Nadda, the BJP's, what's he? The BJP's head, the head of BJP, let's just say, he was in Bihar a couple of weeks ago, or maybe a week ago, and he gave a speech where he apparently said something about regional parties disappearing and BJP being the only party. Now, this is a sentiment that more than one BJP person has said before, including Home Minister Amit Shah. I think he had sometime before, sometime in the middle of 2019 or 2018, he had said something about uh, what is wrong with a single party system. So this is a fantasy that a lot of BJP people have nurtured in their heads for a long time, and maybe it is even an RSS fantasy. But the long story short is that JP Nadda said this, and ever since then, Nitish Kumar seems to have made up his mind that he is not going to stick around in an alliance that these are his words. He said that the alliance seems to be working against him. So he went ahead and did the deed today. He broke away from the NDA, and there is no party hopping that has happened. He is still in his party. If anything, he has changed alliances. He has left the NDA and he has brought together this new alliance with seven parties, including the RJD, the JDU, and apparently the HUM is also there, and also Communist Party and Congress. So there are a bunch of parties, and these are some of the notable ones. Hello to everyone who's saying hi. Hello. Shayan says, to be honest, not much aware of Bihar politics, so I'm here to get educated. You came to the wrong place, my friend. This is no place for education. We just chat. That's all this is. मूड क्या है says महाराष्ट्र में बिजी था सो कॉल्ड चाणक्य पैर के नीचे से जमीन खींच लिया नहीं this was apparent to me and this brings back some memories from Bihar elections also which I spoke about this with friends of mine and it was like if you are someone who is wearing a lungi and you are trying to pull down other people's lungis then the worst thing that can happen to you is that everyone else comes together and decides to pull at your lungi because now you don't have one enemy you have enemies all around you इसको रोकोगे वो खींच देगा उसको रोकोगे ये खींच देगा सो वही हो रहा है बीजेपी के साथ होपफुली देर इज सम यू नो देर इज a sunrise at the end of this hopefully this is not in vain hopefully this is not एक दिन की खुशी जिसके बाद फिर वही बकवास होने वाली है Eman is here. By the way, I'll just remind everyone that this Thursday, we spoke yesterday about mental health advice, right? So this Thursday, Eman and Taranga are both going to be in the live stream, and we are going to talk about, you know, issues that probably a counselor or a social worker should answer instead of me. So I'm bringing both of them on the live stream, and we'll talk about stuff. Yesterday, somebody was asking how to deal with family members after leaving your religion, how to deal with feelings of guilt after, you know, doing something that you have always been told is wrong but is not actually wrong. So things like that. We're going to talk about it this Thursday. So if you are someone who has questions like that, you can come. Uh, Thank you to Milind Sonone for the 100 rupee super chat. Hello, Vimo. Nitish Kumar's move did not surprise many people. Opportunity politics makes me laugh sometimes. Yeah, it's funny. It's very funny. But I hope that there's something good that comes out of it also. Let's see. Let's see. Um, कहाँ था मैं? Oh, yeah. Dhirubhai says Mahagठबंधन again. Let's go. Yeah, Mahagठबंधन is the word that was in vogue in Bihar at that time. मूड क्या है says नीतीश कुमार को साइड कर देगा तेजस्वी जल्दी ही. देखते हैं. Nitish Kumar does seem to have this problem where uh, it is surprising how many times he has changed sides and I guess he not only in addition to changing sides he's also someone who realizes when he's needed the most. Kanhaiya Kumar right now reminds me a lot of Nitish Kumar from his younger days. The same kind of, adeptness at speaking, the same kind of commitment to socialist values, or rather, commitment to his party, which is on paper socialist, etc., etc. Available as a stream early today? Early कहाँ? 10 बजे ही तो शुरू हुआ. Thank you for following Kendall Army on Twitch. Hello. Manmat says, you know it all seems good to me. BJP must face some setbacks. Yeah. So जो भी lack of balance पिछले कुछ दिनों से हो रहा था, and it was all seeming to go in one direction, this is a rather large setback to those forces in the other direction. So it feels nice. I'm not someone who is going to say, अरे धोखा हुआ है. बीजेपी के मुंह से धोखा शब्द अच्छा नहीं लगता. So I'm not going to complain about it. Eman says, I like how this sounds, honestly. What does this sound like? Like, what are you talking about? Kendall says, what are we talking about? Kendall, we are talking about certain events in Indian politics that happened today. And if you are from India, you may have heard about what happened in Bihar with respect to the Chief Minister, Nitish Kumar. So that's what we are talking about. Yeah, the parties, Mayank has pointed out, RJD, Congress, JDU, HUM, CPI, CPIM, CPI, ML. Yes. Evan says, wow, Vimo, lungi, huh? My imagination is my worst enemy. I also have a visual imagination, but I have been living with it since the beginning of my life, so I'm kind of used to it. Puneet says, Kumar Vishwas made a joke. Rest of the world has Khel Mantri. India has Khel Mantri and Kood Mantri. Kood Mantri jumps parties frequently. Khel Kood. Acha, I get it. Agar says, what the fuck, Vimo wearing a lungi? No, I'm not wearing a lungi. I was using lungi as a metaphor. Although I have been wanting to learn how to tie a lungi. It's very comfortable, I'm told. Lot of wiggle room. Let's just put it that way. Samarth says, hi Vimo, congrats on the merch launch. I'm planning to buy tomorrow. Thanks, Samarth. I'll just remind everyone that there is a merch store now. There are t-shirts on the merch store that are designs that are associated with this channel. and my Instagram handle. There's just one design right now. There's a T-shirt at called Sabka Malik Fake Hai, basically an atheist T-shirt. So the believing part of my audience may not like it, but what you can look forward to is another one, which wait, let me just put on the text on the screen. Yeah. So the the merch can be purchased at kadakmerch.com/vimolive. kadakmerch.com/VIMOHLIVE. It's a t-shirt for atheists. This is a stream where we often talk about atheism. So the t-shirt says Sabka Malik Fake Hai. In the near future, there are going to be a couple of more designs for t-shirts, sweatshirts, and what is it called? Hoodies. So you can go to this URL and order your t-shirts and hoodies. And I hope that you do because it all helps me maintain this channel. So having gotten that out of the way, let us return to the comments. Hmm. Diamond Amar says, my cousin says कि समाज को ठीक करने का ठेका मत उठा, it is futile. He sees everything from a personal growth perspective. Social reform में भी profit ढूंढ रहा है. You can share that video of mine, right, about hustle culture and how motivational gurus make you selfish. It's on my main channel. I don't want to talk about it today because the topic is something else. But if you want to, you can tell me. We can talk more about it. Eman says, I'm very satisfied because Maharashtra में जो लोगों ने किया था, मैं तो खुश. Yeah, same here. This is balance being restored to the universe. And it had to happen at the hands of Nitish Kumar only because I don't think anyone else could have done it. He has this complete lack of attachment to when he gets called Dalbadlu. He doesn't care. And he was the only sore thumb sticking out of the NDA machinery as far as his opposition to various policies are concerned. If you remember, he was opposed to the CAA NRC thing. He said that we will implement NRC in Bihar, but it will be the NRC from before and not this changed NRC. Then he has frequently spoken up against communalism, or rather, I mean, in whatever way he could, given that he was very dependent on these people. I'm not, I'm not excusing him, and I'm explaining his behavior. And even more recently, he and Tejasvi both got the BJP to agree to a caste census in Bihar, which was not something that the BJP agreed to do in any other place. But because they really needed Nitish Kumar, they agreed to it in Bihar. And it was a nice thing. And now it is not surprising that Nitish Kumar has done this. This was a long time coming, but I'm just satisfied that this did happen. Sudipta says 2024 में नीतीश वर्सेस मोदी एस पीएम. अरे नहीं रे, यू आर जंपिंग द गन. 2024 में एक टाइम है. सेकंड, नीतीश कुमार इज the reason Narendra Modi won in 2014 was because they steamrolled over every other BJP candidate, and the party put its entire force behind Narendra Modi, and those who were disagreeing were sidelined completely. Opposition में उस लेवल का यूनिटी अभी तक नहीं है. Whether or not they choose Nitish Kumar as the PM candidate is a different matter. And in any case, why are we looking at PM candidates? We are a parliamentary system, not a presidential system. Whenever we start, I mean, I used to do this also, and people in the live stream pointed it out to me, and I started taking it more seriously. We should not get fixated on PM candidates. I hope that our system has not so far gone in the direction of a seemingly presidential system that we are unable to think of anything else. Avarabella says, okay, Lamao, I went back to from win 11 to win 10 and did not change the time. And I was thinking it was 9. Okay. Operating system troubles. Augusta says, BJP did Operation Kamal in Karnataka in 2008 when they did not have the vote and openly bought MLAs. They have no right to talk about betray. Yeah. आज कोई बीजेपी का spokesperson एनडीटीवी पे था. It was hilarious. Like, you know what he said? Hold on, डकार आ रही है मेरे को. He said कि ये जो we are not a party that you know is unfair to our allies. And the NDTV anchor asked, but your allies have all left you. Akali Dal left, Shiv Sena left, JDU has left now, and a couple of others have also left. And he said, no, we always take our allies together with us and we go ahead. And we have been doing this for a long time, since Vajpayee times, etc., etc. And everyone on the panel was frankly just laughing about it. because to everyone it is very apparent that the BJP is has, at least in the last few years, been in the business of swallowing smaller parties. And when it cannot swallow a party, it tries to do what it did in Maharashtra. It tries to take the party away from the person whose party it is. आई मीन उसके ऊपर तो अभी भी थोड़ा लाइट पड़ना बाकी है महाराष्ट्र में. आई डोंट थिंक देयर इज क्लैरिटी ऑन हु द शिवसेना बिलोंग्स टू, because according to the law the party belongs to the person in whose name the party has been registered. So just because someone else says we are the real Shiv Sena does not mean they become the Shiv Sena. But that's a different matter. I suppose that decision is up to the courts or election commission or whoever. We'll see. Eman says old desi men pulling at each other's lungi na. एमान says मर्च लॉन्च हो गया. हाँ एमान, मैंने डाला है इंस्टाग्राम पे, एक ग्राफिक है, देखना जाके, टी शर्ट का डिजाइन है. AVS says yes, we should have lungi in the merch as well. Lungi merch is a very interesting idea, although I don't know if, I mean, I don't know if that is possible actually, but it's an interesting idea. Evan says, since I can't wear that shirt, I will buy and gift it to my bestie. Okay. Is your bestie an atheist? Okay, that's very interesting. You're in good company, Evan. Evan says, Lamphao Agastya. Abhinav says, Gunda Raj not keeping up with Indian news out of stress lately, can only think of what Israel did in Gaza by that phrase, theocratic bullies. Yeah, that's a different level of thing. And that's not even the Gunda Raj I'm talking about. I'm talking about Gunda Raj narrative. And I had a point about this, which had to do with mythology. You have all seen mythological serials, right? In mythological serials, there is a world which has people, and then there are powerful quarters, asuras and devas. When devas are in power, everyone is apparently happy about it. Everyone is looking forward to being ruled by the devas because devas are kind and just and everything. But when an asura aspires to rule, everything goes down the drain. The devas are, अरे असुर कैसे rule कर सकता है? And people are like, देवो हमें हमें आके बचाओ, असुर बहुत अत्याचार कर रहे हैं वगैरह वगैरह. So since even in our mythology, the same narrative is there, that if someone who is not from the hierarchy of power that has been decided by Brahmins comes to power, then it's Gundaraj. It's terrible for everyone. And if someone, uh, someone respected by, someone chosen by the Brahmins, someone, what's the word, someone sanctified by the Brahmins comes and sits on the throne, then nice music plays and flowers fall from the top, etc. This mythological narrative about just rulers is basically Brahminical propaganda. It's basically uh, tales told to normalize upper caste dominance. And whenever an asura comes to power, you've seen that happens, right? Like an asura is doing tapasya, and he's going to ask Brahma that I be allowed to be the ruler of the universe. And if Brahma says yes, then Indra's throne starts shaking and shit starts happening. And then some god has to incarnate in the form of a hero from a royal family who will slay this person and restore balance to the universe by becoming king again. It was so transparent all these years and I did not notice it. But the myth making of Gunda Raj is quite ancient in origin, actually. Mood Kya says this debate about stable government with Purna Bahumat versus a coalition government. On one side, coalition government means not an absolute majority, thus strong democracy but delay in decisions. What do you think? I'm okay with delay in decisions. We have to look at the outcome of it. At the end of the day, are people uh, the delay in a decision is not the factor that is the deciding factor for me. The deciding factor for me is what is the decision? Is the decision to sell all the PSU? Does the decision to sell the PSUs become a good decision because it was made quickly? Could we not have had a little bit of a delay on that decision with multiple parties consulted and a sane decision made with some kind of semblance of respect for what the country has built all these years? डिसीजन में जल्दी होना मेरे लिए प्राइमरी फैक्टर नहीं है. डिसीजन का अच्छा होना प्राइमरी फैक्टर है. अगर तुम जल्दी से डिसीजन ले रहे हो पर सारे के सारे डिसीजन घटिया हैं, तो क्या फायदा? Look at the farm laws. The primary complaint of the farmers was that they were not consulted about it. And when they said that consultation should happen, still nothing happened. Then they came to the national capital, roadblocks were placed in front of them. The government is so intent upon making quick decisions that it does not give a flying duck about people who disagree with those decisions. So the democratic process is obviously better. It's okay if decisions take longer. At least we will use that time to reach a good decision. Good decision or bad decision should be the factors that we have to choose between, not fast decision and slow decisions. सुदीप्ता says लुंगी अरे यार लुंगी मर्च के पीछे क्यों पड़ गए? लुंगी मर्च आएगा क्या? नहीं, लुंगी मर्च नहीं आएगा. एवीएस says लुंगी नहीं पहनने वालों को क्या पता लुंगी का एहसास. Yeah, that's true. Eman says poetic justice. Them VM says, Eman, are you religious? Eman says, my family is. Mayank says, Nitish Kumar also passed caste census going against Yeah, that's what I talked about a couple of minutes ago. Priyansh says, would like you to have a collab with Deshbhakt Akash Banerjee? अरे वो बहुत बड़े बड़े चैनल है, मैं अभी वहाँ पहुंचा नहीं. हैव सीन माय नंबर ऑफ सब्सक्राइबर्स 2000. बैटलर सेज मूड क्या है? आर कोलिशन गवर्नमेंट रियली बैड? इनडिसाइसिव गवर्नमेंट्स आर बैड regardless of whether a coalition or strong government. Again, indecision is not the word I would use to describe it. When the decision is something that is going to affect billions of lives, I want it to take time. I would love it if more decisions were taken with more consideration. Evan says, I wish not to be disowned. Socrates says, it surprises me to see a tricolor flag on almost every other balcony terrace in my apartment. Never saw such patriotism since my childhood. वाह मोदी जी वाह, तिरंगा नहीं लगाए तो देशद्रोही हो तुम. Mood kya hai says, when Nitish Babu banned liquor in Bihar, that increased his vote percentage among women. Yeah, yeah. I seem to remember this happening, although I'm not sure. मैसी says, भक्त कह रहा है फिर से जंगल राज आएगा बिहार में. अभी बोला ना जंगल राज का डायनामिक क्या है. जब पिछड़ों की सरकार आती है तो वो जंगल राज बाय डिफॉल्ट बन जाती है. अगर अगड़ों की सरकार है और वो 50 तरह के गलत काम कर रहे हैं तो भी उसको जंगल राज नहीं कहा जाएगा. सुमना says, I want सबका मालिक फेक है टी-शर्ट too. Can you order it? I don't know if they deliver outside India though. Maybe you can get it delivered through someone else. uh, I think Samarth is just leaving, and he may be on his way over there. Maybe he can send it to you. Milind has sent another 40 rupee super chat. Says, please add Taviz Locket God Rakshak Kavach in merch. And उसके ऊपर लिखा होगा सबका मालिक फेक है. कोई नहीं खरीदेगा. But thanks for the super chat, man. मूड क्या है? Says, एक और पॉजिटिव न्यूज़, वो श्रीकांत त्यागी भी पकड़ा गया. उसमें अलग ही पॉलिटिक्स चल रहा है. Yeah. So there is a bit of a tiff between UP BJP and Delhi BJP. So even if it's a Sanghi BJP member, by the way, the BJP has distanced itself from this guy. But when he was arrested, his car had BJP stickers and flags and stuff, which I don't suppose is proof in and of itself, because there are people who put political parties ka jhandas on their car in order to get through toll gates and stuff. So there is that happening. But yeah, this is happening. Apparently, UP police has arrested him, so I have to assume that he was closer to Delhi BJP. If a Delhi BJP person gets action against them, then you can assume that it is from, uh, like, you get my point, right? Yeah. Shashwat says, how much is BJD different from BJP? Aren't BJP eyeing to horse trade BJD MLAs in Odisha? I don't know yet. I do know that Amit Shah was in Odisha a couple of days ago. I don't know what is happening in Odisha. Although Odisha's Chief Minister Naveen Patnaik has successfully warded off things like this for decades. So I'm guessing he has some experience in dealing with this. Somebody pointed out कि महाराष्ट्र के MLAs को खरीदने के लिए जो ऑफर दिया गया था वो बहुत ज़्यादा था और बिहार वालों को 8 करोड़ या 6 करोड़ ऑफर किया गया था. So I guess depending on which state you are an MLA from, your price also changes. Sarvesh says, just realized that Sabka Malik fake hai is similar to the anarchist slogan, no gods, no masters. Not sure if anyone else made the connection. I will buy a shirt when I'm back home in India. Thanks, Sarvesh. Laval says, do Wimo know how to wear tie lungi? No, Laval, I don't, but I want to learn. Osmo says, Ashura and Indra. Oh, that's a Naruto thing, isn't it? Eman says, bestie's boyfriend, my to-be boyfriend, sub atheist. To-be boyfriend क्या होता है? Have you told him? Sub atheist है. Actually, I'll gift one to my to-be boyfriend also. What to-be boyfriend क्या होता है? मेरी समझ में नहीं आ रहा. Sudipta says, no, we have dedicated CM candidates like Mamta and Uddhav, etc., and Nehru and Indira, etc., as PM candidates. So while we may not be as far gone as US, we have been there in practice for a hot while. Okay, I guess that makes sense. Socrates says, पूरे साल देश में क्या हो रहा है, people don't give an F, but अगस्त आते ही देशभक्ति जाग जाती है इन लंगूरों की. ऊपर से मोदी जी ने बोल दिया, अब तो देशभक्ति और भी ज़्यादा बूस्ट हो गई है. But you will notice, however, that RSS के ट्विटर हैंडल पे तिरंगा डीपी नहीं हुआ, और ना ही आरएसएस के जो कुछ सीनियर मेंबर्स हैं उनके डीपीज पे हुआ. कुछ लोग का हुआ, बट दे वर नॉट दैट सीनियर. Somebody pointed this out. Apparently, Congress tried to go to the headquarters of RSS, or rather, I don't know if they wanted to go to the headquarters of RSS or Mohan Bhagwat's house and tried to gift him a tiranga, but they were stopped by the police apparently. Now, why is that? Hmm. Piyush says corruption, delay things are all upper caste problems who don't see caste, etc. and gives vote on name of efficiency slash corrupt. Yeah. So I told you ना, वो जो आज पोस्ट किया था इंस्टाग्राम पे, प्रिविलेज का लाल चश्मा. I'll read it here also in some time. Instagram, hold on. Yeah, found it. अरे कहाँ गया? Yeah, found it. So I had posted on Instagram a post in red called Privilege Ka Lal Chashma, which had to do with how upper caste people don't, don't get what is the point of reservation, why people want it. So it has to do with the fact that upper caste people lack the frame of reference of someone from the Dalit Bahujan Adivasi community, because they have not experienced the lived experience of these people. So they're only able to look at things from the point of view of money and jobs. So when you say reservation is for social upliftment, they cannot understand anything apart from money and jobs. It is beyond their experience. So they don't know what people are talking about when they talk about social dignity. What do you mean social dignity? Social dignity तो सबके पास होती है, नहीं होती है. तुम्हारे पास है इसलिए तुमको पता नहीं है कि उसका मतलब क्या होता है. So let me just read that post to you. कहाँ गया? Hmm. Right, so I found it, and here it is. Can you see it? Privilege का लाल चश्मा. Imagine a man who cannot see without glasses. Now imagine that he only has one pair of glasses and they are red. This means that every time he sees anything, it appears red to him. Everything is red to him. If you went to this man and told him about colors like blue, green, and yellow, he will not understand. In fact, if you told him that something called red exists, he will not understand either. This is because to him, red is not a color, it is the default nature of reality. He does not think of red as one color among many. He thinks of the world itself as being red all the time. When dominant caste people say that reservation should happen on the basis of economic conditions, or when they make it solely about them losing out on jobs, this is kind of what they're also doing. Their glasses are red. Their glasses are red too. They have only ever seen the world through the lens of money and jobs. So other colors make no sense to them. The only kind of suffering they're able to process is lack of money and jobs. It is all they have ever seen happening. They have no concept of being refused drinking water because of their second name, or being attacked for sitting on a chair, or having to get police protection to ride a horse in their own wedding, or being refused housing when the broker or landlord learns their caste, or being told in college that they are less smart than their peers for no reason, or being blamed for the violence committed against them on account of their caste. These are all colors the red glassed man cannot see. And so he deals with all these shades of everyday Indian reality using the one color he does see through: money and jobs. Reservation is about dignity first and foremost. It is about creating a level playing field out of an ubad khabad cultural landscape. Any conscientious player should enter the game with an understanding of what fairness means. So that was my point. Um, Puneet says, justice hurried is justice buried, justice delayed is justice denied. That sounds very nice, but you know, yeah, I guess there is some optimum time frame during which justice has to happen, but I don't know how to come to that conclusion. Sumana says, "Jaldi mein sara decisions ghatiya ho seems like a personal attack." What? Acha, you are a जल्दबाज क्या? Okay. पीयूष says, "Efficiency का पागलपन नहीं privatization बढ़ाया है." Yeah, that's true. Shashwat says, "Is coalition government a prediction of political crisis? Isn't China advanced than us because of quick decisions by a single party? China also has a lot of bad things happening, man. Just because a decision is taken quickly does not mean that it is a good decision that will change everyone's living standards." एंड हमारे यहाँ तो ऐसे बहुत सारे डिसीजन का एग्जाम्पल है जो बहुत जल्दी लिए गए बट दे आर रियली बैड डिसीजंस एंड ऑफ कोर्स व्हेन समवन इज टेकिंग क्विक डिसीजंस विदाउट आस्किंग एनीवन फॉर कंसल्टेशंस you have to also wonder who is benefiting from this, right? A couple of days ago, Arvind Kejriwal gave a piece to camera, I suppose, a speech where he talked about what should happen to people who treat their friends as more important than the children of the nation. I think you should all watch it regardless of your feelings about him. You should all watch it. It was a very good point he made. And I have never seen him this aggressive. He literally called for people who prefer their friends over the country that they're supposed to govern. He literally said that they should be declared Deshdrohi. Please find that video and watch it. Eman says, Lungi merch I can get for my brothers. Okay. Mood Kya says, Yup, same question was asked on Lallan Top from Saurav Dwivedi, and I was shocked to hear his answer. He directly said he would always support stable government. Yeah. So that right there is a huge example of his personal privilege. He does not see the downside of a so-called stable government when by the way, the UPA is a coalition and it was in power for 10 years. 10 years it was in power for. So clearly coalition does not automatically mean unstable. But if by stable people mean single party government by one political party with brute majority, then it's bound to have problems like the problems we have been seeing for the last few years. Eman says she does not like Akash Banerjee. Okay. Shreya says, I want Pungi merch. No, please. Mm. Battler says regarding Jungle Raj, was it really not a breakdown of machinery where who were close to the government were able to do whatever they want without consequences? How is this propaganda? It is not propaganda. I'm saying Jungle Raj, the phrase, can also be used against governments that are in power right now, but it is not. The phrase only comes by when पिछड़ों की सरकार बनती है. I'm not saying any party is not corrupt. I'm not saying any party is not communal. I'm not saying any party is not opportunist. All political parties are, to one extent or another, suffering from these problems. I'm saying that Jungle Raj, Gunda Raj, these phrases only get used when पिछड़ों की सरकार बनती है. Because you can look at a lot of sarkars right now, by BJP governments. Nobody calls them Jungle Raj, nobody calls them Gunda Raj. Those phrases are reserved for governments by pichhada, parties which represent the pichhada community. Puneet says, my organization distributed flags and sticks to everyone. I don't know how to process this. Most people don't find anything fishy. I'm paranoid, maybe because I'm reading 1984 currently. Hemant says, oh, about Akash. He's a monkey balancing liberal. He also has this tendency to make memes out of sensitive issues. Okay. Liberal, yeah, I agree. And I also think that sometimes when he gets called a leftist, he and certain other YouTubers are very likely to say that, yeah, no, I criticize both sides. So I suppose that's a point. But I think overall, he's on the right side of things. And we are not right now in a place where we can afford to be so choosy about who our allies are that we can discount support from people like Akash. But yeah, he's on the right side, I think. We may have a problem with certain approaches of his, but he's on the right side. Sumana says to be boyfriend is like crush, I think. To be boyfriend, yeah. Eman says, to be boyfriend, meaning the guy I'm seeing. We have been on a bunch of dates. He went back to his city. I miss him very much. So boyfriend ही हुआ ना. To be boyfriend क्या होता है? अजीब हो. Battler says, on BJD, I may have a personal opinion on what will happen in Odisha after Patnaik goes. Among many things, will the dominance of particular upper caste families continue? Okay. We shall see, I guess. Battler says, or will there be a Bahujan upsurge like in other states around Odisha? I guess we will see. I don't see it happening because the BJD's hold on the Odia psyche is quite strong, I would imagine. And even if, like, there are still people in India, at least there were people in India who were of the opinion that Indira Gandhi was still alive 20, 30 years after her death. So that kind of momentum does not go away so fast. Capybara says, what about a fantasy story based on Hindu mythology in which an underdog Asura person becomes a king and problems faced by them, or there is already a story similar to that? I don't know if there are stories similar to this. I myself have written a comic book series based on the Ramayana where Ravan is the main character. Maybe that will scratch your itch. Eman says, I will marry this boy one day. Please call him a man. It just sounds wrong when you say I'll marry this boy. Shreya says, I have a want to be GF. उतना confidence नहीं है अभी कि उसको बोल दूं. Okay, I shall not give love advice. The Batman Begins says the irony is that Omax City in Noida society voted for BJP in spite of BJP associated like Srikant Tyagi kicking their ass on a daily basis. Manish says for Bhakts, Desh Bhakti means Bhakti for Modi BJP only. Okay. Peaceful Nook says I was just watching Chota Bheem and realized it is being fat phobic and racist when they're representing Kalia as the mean bad guy. Probably. A lot of these cartoons are actually quite problematic. I have never seen Chota Bheem by the way, but if that is indeed something that is happening in it, it's wrong. Augusta says, you all make me jealous. I have no to be boyfriend, girlfriend. Battler says, Eman, if it is not too much trouble, what attracted you to this guy? I would like to do what he does to ensure somebody will talk about me like how you are about this. That may be a property unique to Eman. It may not be about the boy. Maybe she is more expressive than you are. So take that into consideration also. Piyush says, जैसे being an upper caste Delhiite 5 years back, I used to only focus on highways, कब बनेंगे अच्छे red light, zebra crossing, cleanliness, सब सुंदर हो जाए मेरे आसपास. Yeah. Among upper caste urban Indians, mostly Savarna Indians, the tendency to think of development as buildings, bridges, and roads is quite high. I personally think that a developed country is one where everyone has access to free healthcare, free education, and the means to live a life of dignity. That is a developed country. बड़े बड़े स्टैचू और बिल्डिंग और सड़कें बनने से कोई कंट्री डेवलप नहीं बन सकता. They're useful, but they cannot be the be all and end all of our definition of a developed nation. Rahul says, what are your views on Science Journey channel? Rahul, I quite like it. Shreya says, Deshbhakt word reminds me one of your videos. It is better to be a Desh Premi rather than a Deshbhakt. When you love something, you want it to be better and can criticize, not the same in Bhakti. Yes, that is an episode of a Hindi episode of my podcast that I did a long time back. It was called Desh Prem versus Desh Bhakti. If you are listening to the podcast on an audio platform, go to the podcast page, scroll down and find that episode. I don't remember the episode number, but it was called Desh Bhakti versus Desh Prem or Desh Prem versus Desh. I think it was Desh Bhakti versus Desh Prem. The Batman Begins as an old uncles and ladies distributed sweets when the bulldozer came to demolish the encroachment by Tyagi. From one day Noida police, Moradabad to जब तक सूरज चांद रहेगा योगी तेरा ना. Oh, wow. Moradabad नहीं मुर्दाबाद लिखा था. Piyush says, but now I see how tribals are displaced for highways, poor vendors are displaced for our aesthetics, no home policies for labor in urban factories. Yeah. Avirbhav says, क्या चल रहा है? And he has written what is walking. थोड़ा बहुत बैलेंस रिस्टोर हुआ है हमारे पॉलिटिकल यूनिवर्स में, वही चल रहा है आज. बट हाउ आर यू आविर्भाव? सुमना says, hello Alayman, you have opened up a new topic of interest here. आविर्भाव says, सुमना जी मैं तो पहले ही कहता था ऐमान को मत बुलाया करो. No, we were talking about how Eman said her to be boyfriend. And I was like, what is a to be boyfriend? Either he is your boyfriend or he is not your boyfriend. That's what we were talking about. Socrates says, Vimo, can you name some good Hindi poets? Arey, Avirbhav is here. Ask him na. Avirbhav, please tell us about some good Hindi poets. If you're into Hindi poetry. By the way, I'm reading Dushyant Kumar and Ramdhari Singh Dinkar now. Yeah, I have read Ramdhari Singh Dinkar, but mostly because his poems were in school curriculum. आई रियली लाइक्ड हिम though. आई रियली लाइक्ड हिम. आ रही सूरज की आ रही रवि की सवारी. Eman says, Battler Shuromia, so it is different for different people. The most important thing for me is someone who's a decent, respectful person who also makes me feel very safe, communicates well. Communicates well? फिर तो बहुत सारे पॉलिटिकल स्पोक्स पर्सन भी तेरे को बहुत हॉट लगते होंगे, बट आई एम क्रॉसिंग माई लिमिट्स. नो. Kavan says, congratulations, Eman. Eman says, he's also very soft and kind and gentle, which is the opposite of me. So it balances everything out. Everything out. I feel like I don't have to play detective and try to figure out what he thinks or wants. Okay. So he tells you what he thinks or wants, right? Yeah. That's always a good thing. That's such a good thing that I wish I had something. I had access to such people in life, because many people mostly you don't say anything. Milind has sent another 200 rupees super sticker. मेघनाथ ने एक्सक्लूसिव वीडियो बनाया था रिजर्वेशन पर, जिसमें क्लियर था कि एंटी रिजर्वेशन वालों को एम्पल स्पेस है, लेकिन फिर भी विरोध करते हैं. एम्प्लॉयज की विरोध असल में घृणा के कारण है, जाति दिमाग से नहीं जाती. या a lot of excuses that are made by Savarna people who say, like today on my Instagram profile, somebody came and said, uh, they were talking about reverse racism. And I said, there is no such thing as reverse racism. And he said, discrimination, no matter who does, how much power they have, is discrimination. I said, that's nonsense. If British people were imperialists and they came to India and they were being imperialist towards freedom fighters and freedom fighters opposed them, you cannot say that the freedom fighters were engaging in reverse imperialism. That's just nonsense. That's not how things work. A word like violence is universally applicable. Anyone who is violent towards someone else, you can say there is violence. But concepts like caste, race, imperialism, etc., they have a distinct power structure attached to them. When people with less power oppose people with more power in whatever system they are in, it is resistance. It is not reverse whatever was being done to them. They don't have power to do it. Only the powerful can be discriminatory towards the powerless. The powerless can resist discrimination, and when they resist discrimination, that resistance cannot be described as a reverse discrimination. It is just resistance. But thank you for the 200 rupees super chat again, Milind. Installments में donate करने के लिए धन्यवाद. कहाँ गया? हाँ, मिल गया. आविर्भाव से सुमना किसकी मौत आ गई? एमान सेज, आविर्भाव, मेरे जैसे लोगों की वजह से ही कम्युनिटी बिल्ड होती है, समझे ना भूतिया इंसान. Oh yeah, I'm definitely falling for this guy. As long as you don't fall on him. आविर्भाव सेज, एमान तू भूतिया की आड़ में मुझे कुछ और बोल रही है. पीयूष सेज, आकाश बैनर्जी इज अ बोरिंग लिबरल, मत देखो वो सब, वहाँ हिंदुइज्म इज डिफरेंट फ्रॉम हिंदुत्व ही चलता है बस. नहीं, आई थिंक ही what he does is that he occasionally brings people over from people. I'm saying that you cannot judge Akash Banerjee on the basis of the opinions of certain guests that he invites, because the range of people that he invites is quite wide. You can criticize him for some things, but overall I don't believe that rejecting someone based on some content is a good idea, especially since his content is not even murder mob content. He's on the right side of history is all I'm saying. उस टाइप का रिजेक्ट अगर करना है तो बहुत सारे यूट्यूबर हैं जिनको कर सकते हो, बट आकाश बैनर्जी इज प्रोबेबली नॉट वन ऑफ देम. एमन सेज, आविर्भाव, हाँ यहाँ सेंसर हो जाता है ना. आविर्भाव सेज, बट विमो भाई, एसपी के टाइम पर भी हम यूपी में जंगल राज ही बोला करते थे. एसपी के टाइम पे, हाँ तो एसपी के टाइम पे जो सरकार थी वो ब्राह्मणिकल सरकार थोड़ी थी. It's still a Yadav Sarkar, right? And Yadavs are not upper caste. That's what that's what I was talking about. Sudipta says, you could have Meghnad or someone else over for a sustained conversation about the whole slow decision versus fast decision in parliament thing that was covered a bit on Sansad Watch. We shall try whenever Meghnad comes over next. Meghnad is no longer a guest on this podcast. He's like, kabhi bhi man karta hai, wo chala aata hai. So whenever he comes next, we will have a conversation. There are a few chats with him in the archive if you want to see them. There is a proper interview, But also a couple of times when he just came over and we talked. Samad says there is this problem with closeted BJP supporters who praise Modi by saying that he at least takes decisions unlike previous PMs who would always delay. They overlook the impact of those decisions. Yeah, exactly. Because the impact does not affect them. Because they're people whose lives are not endangered or made uncomfortable because they're not they're not people who are affected by those decisions. Is what I'm saying. Abhinash says, Piyush, still an upgrade though, and a much easier slope to climb for Sanghis looking to go left. Yeah, that's what I was saying. Avirbhav says, I'm sorry, but even I find Akash Banerjee boring. He tries too hard to be funny. So that is a comment on his comedy. And I personally, there are very few people who are actually funny to me. Very few people. And fortunately, they're all people in my real life. So disagreeing with him because his comedy does not move you is another thing. That's not what I'm okay with you not finding him funny. How many people do I find funny? There is, uh, anyway, there are three people who are like hilarious to me. One is a former colleague, another also is a former colleague, and one is a former classmate. Socrates says, Eman, okay, but why don't you like Akash Banerjee? I would like to know. अरे हो गया आकाश बैनर्जी के बारे में कितनी बार बात करेंगे यार हो गया हो गया Kavan says once again, power structure simply here. Yeah, power structures. You will find that power structures explain everything well. Now, I am not in favor of treating anything as one solution to all problems, but as far as politics is concerned, power structures are usually the answer to most problems, to most questions about why is this happening this way. Murkia says, no, Vimo, but Lalu's tenure was a jungle raj. You can say this about BJP too. Are bhaiya, I'm saying that I agree that every government has criminality enabling factors. I'm saying the BJP is not described as jungle raj, but Lalu is. That's what I'm saying. Every political party is criminal in one way or another. But you don't use phrases like Gunda Raj and Jungle Raj against a Brahmanical Sarkar. You use it whenever a Pichada is in power. Agastya says Reddy brothers, who are prominent ministers in BJP, turned Bellary into their little fiefdom because they were prosecuted and jailed. No one called that Jungle Raj. Hmm, my point. Exactly. Eman says Akash Banerjee also made a meme using imagery of this Muslim person in Assam being jumped on by this journalist, and it was very disturbing. But yeah, I can't be picky, I guess. I mean, I I do remember this meme, and I do think that it was quite insensitive. So I don't know what I can disagree with you on here. I agree with you. Piyush says, Avinash, it never works like that. People watching Banerjee only remain anti-BJP at max. They do not learn anything more than that. So listen, here's the thing. We all need to be having conversations. Now, I'm not in favor of having conversations with utter deranged bigots who think that genocide is a good idea. But if you are going to go out and change minds, and if there is someone on, suppose on a scale of 1 to 10, 10 is maximum disagreement and 1 is no disagreement, complete agreement. If you're having a conversation with someone with whom you disagree 10, and after the conversation you can bring them down to 9, then that's a good conversation. I'm saying that we should not approach every conversation as if our goal is to bring people from 10 to 1, because that would be impractical and that would not lead to anything useful. We will just be siloing ourselves in. There are many people who were not uh, aware about casteism. We I myself am an example. There are people in the chat here who are an example. If we had not been had if people had not had conversations with me or with us, then I would not be where I am today, right? And I still have a ways to go before I get to where I want to be. So don't be like, he does not do a perfect job, so he has no utility. Maybe he does take people down one step, and maybe the next step is going to be taken because of some other reason, right? Hmm. Dragoon says, as an Odia, who you think can hold Naveen Patnaik if he... अरे यार ऐसा क्यों बोल रहे हो? Please don't say this. it gives me, it triggers me in ways that you cannot even imagine given my life right now. मूड क्या है सर बिग माउथ? यहाँ कमेंट सेक्शन में जज करना बहुत ईज़ी है, उसे कोई चेंज नहीं आता। उससे कोई चेंज नहीं आता। अच्छा। Hmm. Mattler says, I agree that certain governments are judged differently based on who support them. TN pioneered the policies that won Yogi ji the previous election. Yet, when he does it, it's a revolution. Yeah. Credit. It's all a game of credit. It's all a game of banners with gratitude on them. Piyush says, मोटा पतला कार्टून चल रहा है अभी. हाँ, मोटू पतलू. Actually, I never thought of that. I suppose मोटू पतलू का फाउंडेशन ही बॉडी शेमिंग है. हाँ. Hmm. Hmm. I don't know honestly though. Is it body shaming simply because their name is Motu Patlu? Because by that logic, Neil Gaiman has written a novel where a character's name is Fat Charlie. Although I'm not comparing Motu Patlu with Neil Gaiman. By the way, Sandman देखा है तुम लोगों ने? बहुत अच्छा है. And I'm trying to get my mother to watch it in the Hindi version, and the voice acting in the Hindi version is also quite nice, even though the translation leaves a little bit to be desired. But I suppose I can't expect perfection, as I just pointed out. But Sandman का हिंदी version देखना है तो देख सकते हो. अच्छा है, it's not bad. Sona says Avirbhav's love story is the best. So much drama it can be made into a film. अच्छा, मुझे पता ही नहीं है उसके बारे में कुछ. कभी बात करूंगा उससे. Kavan says my to be GF does not want to be my GF. It's okay. It's okay, man. Life is long and you have plenty of options. Don't worry about it. I understand when you're young and someone you like does not like you back, it feels like the end of the world, but it's not. And actually, a friend of mine pointed out that when you're like 30 years old and you find the person who you had a crush on at 18, you wonder why you had a crush on them. Because most of the time you're like, what is special about this person again? But the only thing that has happened is that the brain chemistry that was causing you to, that was causing drug like reactions in your head with respect to this person, that chemistry has stopped. Hmm. Abhinav says, Piyush, isn't being anti-BJP still being on the right side of history? At least it's doing no harm. Yeah, as I said, it's one step closer to where people should be. And we should not say that simply because तुम दिल्ली से निकले तुमको मुंबई आना है, अगर तुम मुंबई नहीं पहुंचे तो तुम्हारी जर्नी का कोई वैल्यू ही नहीं है. अरे तुम कम से कम दिल्ली से निकल तो आए, आधे रास्ते तक तो पहुंचे. दैट्स ऑल्सो ओके. आई मीन इट मे नॉट बी परफेक्ट बट इट्स ओके. Someone says, I too have my reservations with Akash and Dhruv, but then, as you rightly said, we can't be picky because we are in real need of allies. Yeah. Yeah. Socrates says, Rakhi aa rahi hai yaron, be careful around your crushes. Eman says, Avirbhav, why don't I know your love story? Yeah, even I don't know his love story. Piyush says, Avinash, uh, भट बारे भट बेयर में बट बेयर मिनिमम थिंग है वो, उससे कुछ होता नहीं है. वो लोग फिर आरएसएस बी प्लान आपको दे देते हैं. I mean, listen, mera point I have made already 2 times. I'm not going to repeat it. I'll just reiterate that if someone is taking a step closer to where they should be, we should maybe don't applaud it, but don't condemn it either. Shashwat says many right wingers claim that BJP is the most successful party in annihilating caste identity by invoking Hindu identity and Hindu identity. What is your take on it? Hindu identity is intrinsically tied to caste identity. You see major ministers, etc., who during election times will go and sit in a Dalit's house and eat food, and it will be brand new plates. So, on a very synthetic level, I suppose some symbolic stuff has happened, but that symbolic stuff is not unique to the BJP. Every party has done it. Rahul Gandhi used to go and eat in Dalit people's houses before elections. So, I don't know if the BJP has done something especially good for Dalits. Freethinker says, why Brahma the creator is not as godly as Krishna? There are some stories about why Brahma does not get worshipped, and it has to do with certain allegations of incest. And I don't want to go into it right now. Maybe some other episode we'll do in a mythology thing because my mind is foggy about it also. Butler says, when TN does it and develops their state, it is a freebie. and a drain on the state. Like, bro, yeah. Uh, Agar we continue to vent our anger and cuss at some gods, why don't people get it? Evan says, he hasn't asked me out yet. Why are you waiting for him to ask you out? You ask him out now. Be the change you want to see in the world. Robert says, beer biceps guy said tribals are the demons asur according to Hindu religion. That's those poor people being outcast from society. Beer biceps, yeah. I mean, that is right. In mythology, the people who are described as asuras were actually tribals. But what did beer biceps say about it? Hmm. Battler says, Shashwat, I think same. I think some of the North Indian states are quite comparable to TN, another state with tall claims on caste elimination in atrocities on SC/ST. That should answer your question, right? Um, Chikur Chirkut Baba 420 has sent a 100 rupee super chat. Thank you, Chikur Chirkut. My uncle watched Panchayat. I asked his review. He said, humor अच्छा है, but क्या बिहार यूपी के पंचायत ऑफिस में सारे ब्राह्मण ही होते हैं क्या? That is a point that has been raised also, by the way. Some people on Twitter were talking about how this show is very casteist in its representation. Some people did point it out. Hmm. Evan says, oh, Vimo, you have no idea. People don't communicate at all. People who communicate well are so rare. Even I am learning to communicate better because of him. Good. He has changed you. He has made you a better human being, I suppose. Crushes are so much fun to observe. Piyush says only way to good relationships is ये अचानक ये रिलेशनशिप स्ट्रीम कैसे बन गया? कीप इट टू नीड्स बेसिस. नहीं बोलोगे मुझे ट्रिप पे जाना है या फ्लावर्स चाहिए तो सामने वाले को सपना नहीं आएगा. What? Again, why am I reading this? Avirbhav says Socrates. Avirbhav is recommending some Hindi poets. 1. Sumitra Nandan Pant. 2. Jayashankar Prasad. 3. Mahadevi Verma. 4. Subhadra Kumari Chauhan. 5. Surikant Tripathi Nirala. Nirala and Mahadevi Verma are my favorites, to whatever extent I have read them. Eamon's comments are getting... Eamon's comments I can no longer read to people. I'm sorry. Let me get to the end somewhat because Piyush says Meghnad is now Ghar Ki Murgi Dal. Arey nahi re. I still respect him a lot. I appreciate the fact that he comes. But he's a friend of the channel, let's just say, instead of a guest. Puneet says, do you read Adam Gondvi if you want to read harsh words against casteism and class bias? Eman says, Vimo laughs at my comment. I laugh with your comments. Mera naam bhi lo. LOL, Eman. Manmat says, I don't find anything wrong with Akash, but at times he oversimplifies stuff with the intent of maximum traffic. What? Oversimplify stuff? I find it stuff like, he tries to make explainers for his audience. And I suppose to a certain extent, Dhruv Rathi has also started doing the same. In recent times, his videos have been about space telescopes and historical facts, etc. So they're both trying to, not both, Akash is still very much a journalist, but Dhruv is trying to go into explain their territory now, which is curious. पीयूष says, विमो आकाश बैनर्जी को हम लोग यहाँ जो लाइव हैं उनके लिए ओपिनियन दे रहे हैं, नॉट फॉर बिगर मासेस, जस्ट यहाँ के लोग उसकी बात ना करें, ये बोल रहे हैं. अच्छा, ओके, कूल, थैंक्स पीयूष. एमन says, मोरओवर सबकी गवर्नमेंट की क्रिमिनलिटी विजिबल नहीं होती. दैट इज ऑल्सो ट्रू. Avirbhav says 40 people watching and 20 likes. Like karo stream ko. Yes, people. I always go back to the video and find out there are very few likes, and I forget to tell people to like the video. So do remind each other to like the video. Whoever is watching, please like the video because that will make sure the video reaches more people. Just click the like button. Avirbhav says oppress the like button. Piyush says basically avoid boring liberals like Faye D'Souza, the Insta copy paste news machine, Akash Banerjee, etc. Faye D'Souza is a journalist, man. Faye D'Souza's channel is quite good. She's the one of the few YouTubers who whose news videos are about the news. only about the news. And she uses Instagram as a distribution tool for news. Everyone does it. I also do it. Instagram is a distribution channel. It's not a content platform, except with the possible exception of Reels. By the way, today I learned that Meta, the company, the parent company of Facebook, so called, is working on a live streaming platform called Super. The URL is super.events. I cannot access it because it's not available in this region apparently, but it's apparently going to be a Twitch competitor. So, and I shared a link with Avirbhav also. Avirbhav अपना इंस्टाग्राम स्वप्निल अपना इंस्टाग्राम देखो उसमें मैंने तुमको लिंक भेजा एक वीडियो का. So in the coming year or so there will be another live streaming player in the market, again owned by Facebook, which already owns Facebook Gaming, Facebook Live and all that, and it has a huge chunk of the mixer crowd also. Someone says, by the way, what happened to the plan of streaming live games on Wemo Plays? Meghnad upgraded his PC. You two can collaborate now for gaming live streams, I think. I would love to, but my PC upgrade is sometime in the future. I don't think it's happening anytime soon. And if I play, it will not be the kind of games that Meghnad plays. I will play card games or something. And I've been wondering if that's going to be entertaining to people. I will. Sometime this weekend, maybe. On Twitch or on Twitch and my gaming channel. मूड क्या ऐसे अरे यार एक वीक में 100 कंटेंट पोस्ट करना है तो हर पोस्ट का पॉलिटिक्स परफेक्ट नहीं होगा ना. जब कोई नहीं एंटी बीजेपी वीडियो बना रहा है तब आकाश और ध्रुव ही था. फेयर पॉइंट. Avra says, but Motu Patlu comics did not have body shaming. Yeah, they're talking about the name Motu and Patlu. Why should two characters be described as Motu Patlu? I suppose Motu Patlu is a, how do I put it? It's a vestige of an age when these things were not getting frowned upon, and now they are frowned upon. So the name still rings a couple of bells, not rings the bells, raises a couple of alarms, and that's what I was talking about. I don't think Motu Patlu का foundation body shaming है, but the name Motu Patlu is, I don't know how else to, like, I don't know what they can do to get rid of it. Like, Simpsons had this character called Apu, who was a stereotypical Indian character, and they got rid of him. But Simpsons does not suffer if one character disappears. But मोटू पतलू का नाम ही मोटू पतलू है. उसको क्या चेंज कर सकते हैं वो लोग? Eman says, मैं देखूंगा Sandman क्योंकि a lot of people have said it's nice. It's very nice. I think you'll really like it. Please watch it. If you have not read the graphic novels, it still makes a lot of sense. And I hope that after you see the series, you read the graphic novels also. Cowan says, I like Sandman, but I suppose it does not cover everything. It's a first season, and Neil Gaiman is involved with the production of it also. So I'm guessing it will be more and more interesting in the coming days. Eman says, yeah, I mean, the guy I liked 6 months back seems boring to me already. Oh, okay. Yeah, okay. We are at 1 hour 4 minutes, so I think I should end the live stream now. आविर्भाव साहब पीयूष वो कॉमिक बुक लेट 70s में क्रिएट हुआ था तब ऐसे ही नाम होते थे मोटू पतलू छोटू लब्बू एटसेट्रा या एंड ऑफ कोर्स यू आल्सो हैव टू रियलाइज दैट दीज थिंग्स फर्स्ट केम आउट इन हिंदी दे वर केटरिंग टू द हिंदी मार्केट एंड हिंदी मार्केट में दीज थिंग्स सोल्ड अ लॉट बट आई स्टिल आई एम क्वाइट ब्लोन अवे बाय द फैक्ट दैट चाचा चौधरी kind of sort of remains unproblematic, right? So does Billu, so does Pinky. Srimati ji, I suppose, is a stereotypical housewife in some respects, but a lot of cartoonist Pran's creations are not as problematic as certain other things from the 70s, I guess. Hmm. Eman says, what makes you think I haven't? We spoke about it and there's a lot of things going on with him. So, acha, what are you talking about? Shreya says, अरे दिल्ली जाके रहो एक बार, it will have a special place in your lungs as well, not just heart. Sorry. मैं दिल्ली में रह चुका हूँ एक्चुअली. दिल्ली की गर्मी झेली है, दिल्ली की सर्दी झेली है, दिल्ली का पोल्यूशन झेला है. एक बार तो इतना भयंकर कंजेशन हुआ था कि I was out of commission for 2 weeks. Like bedridden, weak and everything. Kavan says maybe the casteist representation of certain characters in Panchayat are a reflection of society in general. At least that's how I interpreted it, since I don't have much exposure to rural India. No, what I think what people are pointing out is that if it's a story, it does not have to be a literal representation of rural India, because society affects art, but art also affects society. So if it is within the powers of a storyteller to present a reality where there is more representation for women, for marginalized castes, for uh, minority religions, etc., then they should probably do it. Now, I'm not saying make a mythological serial with Muslim characters in it, because that would be one step too far, because you want to remain true to the aesthetic of it at least. But even in fantasy, you can have fantasy with gods, Gandharvas, and people with Muslim names. So if it is within the powers of a storyteller to create a more diverse fictional universe, I think they should give it a try. Hmm, 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 hmm. Um, कहाँ गया? Sumana says, Eman, classic Bangalore liberals are like, I speak amazing English and watch Western movies, so that makes me a liberal. Shreya says, I get it. It may be a personal opinion. I have lived in Bangalore and Hyderabad. I like the city Bangalore more, but people were better from Hyderabad. Bangalore side, काफी racism hai against Northeast people. Hmm. Okay. These are again other people's opinions. I'm not saying I agree with it. Sumana says, I got dust allergy last time I visited Delhi. Okay. Agastya says, Bangalore is weird. Old people are xenophobic. Most IT crowd used to be pro Modi to the point some of them banded up and started Namo Brigade. But you also see many rebellious folks there also. Okay. Right. So before I read the last few comments, let me just remind people that this live stream happens from Monday to Friday on YouTube and Twitch at 10 p.m. Today is Tuesday, I think. Today is Tuesday, August 9, and this is the second live stream of the week. Tomorrow at 10 p.m., I will be live again. If you want to support this channel, what you can do is click the join button below and become a member, or you can send a super chat in the chat. There's a dollar sign there. Click on it and you can send money. In addition, if you want to support me on Patreon, you can do so at patreon.com/Vimo. You can make a monthly or an annual pledge. And if you don't want to make an annual pledge, you can do a one-time contribution at my blog, which is vimo.stck.me. There is a support button there. You can just click on it and make a one-time donation. There is no monthly or annual commitment necessary. Also, there is merch available now, which you can buy at kadakmerch.com/vimolive. kadakmerch.com/vimolive. And if you do that, all the money, all the contribution you make helps me run this channel, helps me subscribe to software, buy books and stuff like this, and even pay my bills, my food, my electricity bill, etc. So thanks in advance. If you want to listen to audio versions of this podcast, you can do so at www.vimo.in. There are all the audio episodes available on that website. There is also links to all the audio apps where you can find and subscribe to the podcast on Spotify, Google Podcast, Apple Podcast, Ghana.com, JioSavan, etc. Having said that, let me return to the last few comments. Hold on. Let me just play the music. Yep. So the last few comments are... Shreya says, Delhi as a city is awesome. I just have two small issues, kind of, population and pollution. Baki city to fadu hai. Okay. I didn't ever find Delhi that fadu, but okay, I'm glad you'll enjoy it. Piyush says, मैं एक बार कतर कोई ट्रिप से आया था दिल्ली वापस, तो अभी खुली हवा में भी नहीं आया था. प्लेन से एयरपोर्ट पे जाते ही खून निकला भर के, छींक मार मार के. वाओ. मतलब स्मॉग सीजन के बीच में आया लगता है. शेयर सेज, कन्हैया ने सही बोला था, एनसीसी का परेड नहीं चल रहा कि दिन रात लेफ्ट राइट करते रहे. मूड क्या है? नहीं भाई, जिंदगी सिर्फ लिबरल न्यू लिबरल करने में नहीं बिताना है, और भी काम होता है. ये राइट लेफ्ट हमेशा या कोई तो प्रिविलेज्ड या फिर आरएसएस का कोई बंदा करता है. ओके, आई डोंट नो व्हाट दैट मीन्स एग्जैक्टली, बट ओके. Someone says, Gangtok for me is the best Indian is the best Indian city. Glad you enjoyed, man. I don't know if I've ever been there. Okay. There is this comment from these guys. I'm not sure if people are sending me messages or talking to each other. आविर्भाव says, क्या सिर्फ 1 घंटे बाद स्ट्रीम बंद? मैं 3 घंटे क्या करता हूँ? आविर्भाव, तुम महान हो। तुम्हें तुम्हें प्रेत आत्माओं का साथ मिलता है जब तुम उस कमरे में बैठे होते हो। मुझे रोज करना पड़ता है और तुम हफ्ते में 1 बार करते हो और वो भी कभी कभी पोस्टपोन करते हो। सो आई गेस आई विल स्टिक टू माई शेड्यूल। अविनाश says, मोटू पतलू are in a gay relationship. Fixed. पीयूष says, मार्क्स और अंबेडकर पढ़ाना है हमें लोगों को, hence liberals are our enemies, remember? Also request all to read to cross liberal phase fast to come to proper left politics. पीयूष काफी जल्दी में है. That's okay. But yeah, thank you everyone for coming today, and I will see you tomorrow at 10 p.m. And tomorrow when we do the live stream, we'll talk about religion, atheism, and the usual stuff. Today we kind of got sidetracked by Bihar politics, which is okay because this was a good day as far as Indian politics is concerned. I'll see you all tomorrow, and I hope you have a great day ahead. Thank you and be safe. Bye bye. Good night.